What does it mean to become more than human? To transcend your limitations and evolve into something greater. That's the journey of Sung Jinwoo from Solo Leveling. Whether you're a fan of manhwa, anime, or philosophy, one thing's for sure. Jinwoo's story is more than just a power fantasy. It's an exploration of existentialism and Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch. For those unfamiliar, Friedrich Nietzsche's Übermensch, or Overman, represents a being who transcends ordinary human existence. It's about surpassing limitations, crafting one's own destiny, and rejecting conventional morality. You don't just follow the rules, you make your own. Sounds like Jinwoo, right? But to understand how Jinwoo's journey aligns with this philosophy, we have to start from the very beginning, when he was nothing more than a weak, powerless hunter. When we first meet Jinwoo, he's the weakest of the weak, an E-rank hunter barely surviving each raid, only to be pitied and mocked by his peers. But his transformation isn't just physical, it's philosophical. Jinwoo starts as a blank slate, someone trapped by his fate, constantly questioning why he's stuck at the bottom. Existentialism, at its core, challenges the idea of inherent purpose. There's no grand design telling Jinwoo to become strong. He has to create that meaning himself. And that's where his journey truly begins. The moment he faces death in the double dungeon, Jinwoo's mindset changes. As death looms, he doesn't give in. Instead, he chooses to fight back, embracing survival against all odds. It's this choice, this act of will, that sets him on the path of the Ubermensch. The system may have given him power, but it's his decision to push forward that truly shapes his fate. But gaining power doesn't instantly make him the Ubermensch. It's just the first step. The real transformation happens as he grapples with the consequences of that power and learns to wield it without losing himself. As Jinwoo's strength grows, so does his determination. Nietzsche believed that the fundamental driving force in humans wasn't survival or happiness, but the will to power, the desire to overcome, to dominate, to become greater than oneself. And this is where the transformation really kicks in. Jinwoo doesn't settle for the power he's given. He seeks to master it, to transcend his limits. It's not just about surviving anymore. It's about taking control and becoming something far beyond the weak hunter he once was. But what truly sets Jinwoo apart is his relentless desire to surpass even the strongest foes. He doesn't just accept being strong, he aims to be the strongest, to prove that nothing can hold him back. In doing so, he continuously redefines his identity, shedding his weak past like a discarded shell. Each new victory marks a step closer to self-actualization, where he fully embraces his potential. But with immense power comes the risk of losing oneself. Jinwoo isn't just fighting monsters, he's also battling his own darker impulses. As his strength becomes overwhelming, so does the temptation to become ruthless, indifferent, even monstrous. Nietzsche's Übermensch isn't just about being powerful, it's about remaining true to one's core values despite overwhelming might. In Jinwoo's case, his inner struggle mirrors the conflict between power and compassion. Does he become a heartless conqueror, or does he stay human despite his godlike abilities? This tension echoes Nietzsche's warning that the Ubermensch must rise above mere dominance and maintain a sense of purpose beyond just being stronger than others. What makes Jinwoo's journey so compelling is that he never loses his sense of humanity. He may appear merciless to his enemies, but he remains fiercely protective of his family and those who matter to him. This balance between power and empathy solidifies his evolution, not just as a warrior, but as a self-actualized being who shapes his own moral code, creating one's own morality beyond good and evil. And this brings us to a crucial aspect of Nietzsche's philosophy, creating one's own values. Jinwoo's rise to power doesn't make him conform to traditional heroism. Instead, he operates on his own terms, guided by his personal sense of justice and responsibility. His actions don't fit neatly into good or evil. They reflect his own moral autonomy. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche argues that the Ubermensch creates their own values rather than conforming to societal norms. Jinwoo exemplifies this by constantly making tough choices, choosing to slaughter entire dungeons without mercy, not out of malice, but out of necessity. There's a certain ruthlessness to his actions, but it's not about being evil, it's about transcending conventional morality. But true transcendence isn't achieved until he faces the monarchs. These beings represent more than just adversaries. They are a test of his resolve and his self-actualization. The monarchs have power equal to or greater than Jinwoo, but they are driven by primal instincts and a desire to dominate. In contrast, Jinwoo's strength comes from his will to protect and overcome, not merely to subjugate. This is the ultimate distinction between Jinwoo and the monarchs. While they are driven by the basic will to power, Jinwoo embodies something deeper: will to purpose. He doesn't just fight for dominance, he fights to achieve something meaningful. That's the true essence of the Ubermensch. Not just raw power, but purposeful power shaped by one's own will. And when Jinwoo finally transcends humanity itself, it's not just an elevation of power. It's the culmination of his journey from weak hunter to self-defined existence. Unlike the monarchs, whose power defines them, Jinwoo's power is just a tool, a means to realize his inner purpose. This transformation into a godlike figure represents the ultimate realization of the Übermensch, to transcend human limitations while maintaining the essence of self-determination. He evolves beyond weakness not just physically, but existentially, by defining his own path and choosing his own destiny. That's why Jinwoo's story resonates so deeply. It's not just about becoming powerful, it's about rejecting fate and choosing his own path. In his quest to become the strongest, he's not driven by ego or the desire to rule. Instead, it's a personal journey of actualization, becoming his ideal self. He breaks free from being a weak hunter trapped by fate, embracing his potential as the ultimate being. In Nietzsche's terms, he achieves freedom through power, liberating himself from the constraints of weakness and human frailty. Nietzsche wasn't the only great thinker to delve into the concept of the Übermensch. Long before him, other towering minds contemplated what it means to transcend human limits and stand above ordinary morality. One of the most profound explorations of this idea comes not from Nietzsche himself, but from another literary giant, Fyodor Dostoevsky. And let me tell you, Dostoevsky is my favorite author of all time. His works dig deep into the human soul, exposing our darkest fears and deepest desires. And among his masterpieces, Crime and Punishment stands out as my favorite work in human history. It's an intense, raw portrayal of guilt, redemption, and the dangerous allure of trying to become something more than human. In Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky presents a twisted, brutal take on the concept of the Ubermensch through the character of Raskolnikov. Unlike Nietzsche's vision of a noble being transcending human limitations, Raskolnikov represents a failed Ubermensch, a man who believes he can rise above conventional morality, but ends up crushed under the weight of his own conscience. Raskolnikov's tragedy lies in his belief that certain individuals, the extraordinary ones, have the right to commit immoral acts if it serves a greater purpose. He likens himself to Napoleon, convinced that greatness justifies violence. But as the story unfolds, his crime doesn't elevate him, it breaks him. His mind fractures, tormented by guilt and the realization that he is, after all, just an ordinary man. Now, how does this compare to Jinwoo from Solo Leveling? At first glance, they couldn't be more different. Jinwoo's transformation from weak to overwhelmingly powerful feels almost triumphant, while Raskolnikov's descent into madness is agonizing. But if we look deeper, we see that they both struggle with the concept of transcending humanity, one through power and dominance, the other through moral superiority. Raskolnikov wants to break free from human constraints, to prove that he can be above common morality. Jinwoo, too, transcends the limits of his human condition, becoming something far beyond ordinary hunters. But here's the crucial difference. Jinwoo doesn't justify his actions as inherently right or morally superior. He doesn't claim that his strength gives him the right to dominate or kill indiscriminately. Instead, he fights to survive and protect. Raskolnikov, on the other hand, clings to the idea that his supposed greatness justifies his brutality. In the end, Jinwoo's path reflects Nietzsche's Übermensch, one who creates his own values and doesn't bend to societal norms, while Raskolnikov's journey mirrors the fallacy of self-proclaimed superiority, a hollow, desperate attempt to justify weakness with grandiose ideology. Dostoevsky's warning in Crime and Punishment is that the Ubermensch ideal can lead to self-destruction if pursued without true strength of character. Raskolnikov's downfall isn't just his crime, It's his failure to bear the consequences of living beyond moral boundaries. He's crushed not by the world, but by his own guilt, proving that his grand philosophy was nothing but a fragile delusion. Jinwoo, in contrast, never seeks to justify his power with ideology. He doesn't believe that being stronger makes him morally superior. It just makes him more capable of protecting what he values. This distinction is vital because it highlights how the Ubermensch isn't just about might or dominance, but about self-mastery and purpose. In the end, what makes Jinwoo resonate as an Ubermensch isn't just his unmatched power, but his refusal to become a tyrant or a self-righteous god. He could easily fall into the trap of believing his strength justifies anything, like Raskolnikov did. Instead, he grounds himself in his humanity despite his godlike abilities. He acknowledges his responsibility not just as the strongest hunter, but as a protector of his loved ones. That sense of duty and purpose, of wielding power without letting it consume his identity, is what elevates him beyond just being a powerful entity. Jinwoo becomes an Ubermensch, not because he conquers others, but because he conquers himself. He doesn't let power distort his sense of self, and he doesn't fall victim to hubris and guilt like Raskolnikov. In that sense, Jinwoo becomes what Raskolnikov could never be, a true embodiment of the Ubermensch ideal, who stands above human limitations while still holding on to his own sense of humanity. While Nietzsche envisioned the Übermensch as a liberated spirit free from conventional morality, Dostoevsky's interpretation serves as a cautionary tale, a grim reminder that seeking to transcend humanity without grounding oneself in authentic purpose leads to ruin. Jinwoo's journey aligns more with Nietzsche's ideal, a triumph of will and identity, while Raskolnikov's tragic path shows the dangers of chasing greatness without genuine strength or conviction. It's fascinating how two of the greatest literary minds, Nietzsche and Dostoevsky, approach the same concept from radically different angles. One sees it as a goal to strive for, the other as a warning against self-deception. But maybe that's the true lesson here. Becoming an Ubermensch isn't just about amassing power or transcending norms, it's about transcending oneself, mastering one's own fears and desires. Jinwoo may have risen to godhood, but he never lost his sense of who he was. And that, more than anything else, is what makes his transformation resonate. So, what do you think? Is Jinwoo the Ubermensch that Nietzsche envisioned, or does Dostoevsky's tragic warning still linger beneath the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more philosophical breakdowns of your favorite anime and manhwa. And as always, keep questioning, keep evolving. See you next time.